Hi, my name is John Oakes, the Professional Development Coordinator for AMATIC, and welcome to the AMATIC 2015 webinar series, ECAT's Electronic Classroom Assessment Techniques, Taking the Temperature of Learning in the Classroom with Leah Chuchran, and this presentation is sponsored by the Placement and Assessment Committee of AMATIC. And AMATIC is the American Mathematical Association of two-year colleges, and our core value is building expertise and exhibiting leadership in the teaching and learning of mathematics, enhancing personal growth, and improving teaching methods and effectiveness as a personally initiated lifelong responsibility. And for more information, please visit the website at amatic.org. Please note that the views expressed by the presenter are not necessarily the views of AMATIC, and any commercial products mentioned by presenters are not endorsed by AMATIC. And WebAssign is proud to support the AMATIC webinar series. And so now we're going to actually switch to the presenter slides. And I think that we're going to do a screen share here, so let me bring up the screen share. Can we do that, Leah? Are you able to request it yourself?
I think so. Let's see what happens
Okay,
here.
great. Okay, so let me introduce Leah real quickly while the slides are coming up. So engaged in higher education since 2006, Leah currently holds the position of Digital Learning Specialist at Emory University, representing the Center for Digital Scholarship. The center is a university-wide facility and resource provided to faculty, staff, and students at Emory who are interested in incorporating digital technology into teaching, research, business workflows, publishing, and exhibiting scholarly work. She is responsible for all things assessment and evaluation, faculty enrichment programs, and grad student training, along with teaching best practices in digital learning environments. The position requires project management expertise for a wide variety of disciplines, since Emory, an R1 institution, is not only a liberal arts college, the community is also comprised of professional schools and a large healthcare institution. Presently, Leah instructs the digital environment and puts forth a great deal of effort to bring the human element to the online class utilizing easy-to-use Web 2.0 technologies. She also co-developed and facilitates the Foundations of Teaching online course offered to Emory faculty who will be teaching in the blended or online environments. Her current research interests include open educational resources, or OERs, digital badges, micro-credentials, building learning communities, and humanizing the online classroom. So without further ado, let's all welcome Leah in the chat room here, and I'll turn it over to you right now.
Well, thank you so much. That was a very warm introduction, John, and thank you for all of your expertise thus far in getting us started today. And a quick thumbs up or yes that everyone can hear me clearly. Great. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you could be here and spend a quick hour with me to talk a little about assessing people, assessing students in the classroom. And I don't know, let's get started. Many of you have already begun to introduce yourselves. So real quick, I just want to make a mention of two things. This will be a quick um, an hour because we will be doing things online together. So please, if you could give us your full attention and participation, that would be greatly appreciated. I hope that it will be as fun as possible. That is my goal here. So is this an ECAT? I'm sure many of you enjoy cats, and no, this is not an ECAT. But and I did have a box here that just said, please type where you're located. So if some of you have not said where you're from, that would be very helpful for me to let me know where you're coming from. I would love to get to know more about you overall, but this is, again, a quick hour. All right, so we have folks from Arizona. I used to live in Arizona. I currently live in Georgia, so we have a few Georgians here, which is lovely. A few Emory affiliations, which is very cool. And yes, so Banaz is in Swanee. Very nice. And you're from Atlanta, Ellen. Okay, excellent. All right, New Jersey. All right, all over the place. Lovely. Florida, okay. All right. And Amber's here from Maryland. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you can expect to learn today. This is very important, right? So you should be able to, by the end of this hour, um, describe classroom assessment techniques, become familiar with how ECATs can be utilized in the online classroom using simple and free technologies, and I'm going to elaborate on that in just a moment. We're going to participate in some hands-on live ECATs. Distinguish the difference between CATs and ECATs, and also formulate ways to integrate ECATs into synchronous and asynchronous online classroom activities. Now, I know that many of you, you may teach in different mediums. You may teach face-to-face traditional classes, or you may teach blended courses, or you may teach fully online courses. The good news about what you're going to learn today is that you can pretty much adapt whatever you want for any one of those mediums. So that is very nice. So cats and ECATs are generally the same, just a slight difference, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, so for the record, just as I just talked about, this webinar will cover both ECATs and many types of technologies, and that's where the quickness is going to come in. Most of the technologies have free options or are available to you as an instructor at your institution, as well as some very low-cost technologies. And I am a proponent of using technology that aligns with instructional goals. I do not condone the use of technology for technology's sake only. So if this seems overwhelming, then please just let me know. And at any time that you wanted to follow up with some of these technologies, I will definitely leave you with my contact information at the end. Okay. All right, so what are CATs, ECATs? Well, classroom assessment techniques have been around for a long time. And basically, the ECATs is the electronic format, all attached to the same premise of a classroom assessment technique. And in general, they are consistent, they're frequent, and they're considered temperature checks of learning. They are very simple and non-graded sometimes, or they could be graded depending on what works best for your class. These techniques allow for instructors to identify gaps of information so that the learners are active participants in the learning process. And they are designed to give you and your students useful feedback on the teaching learning process as it is happening, not after, right? So that's very important. And typically they are formative and also diagnostic in nature. Again, that is the temperature check that we're talking about. Okay, so distinction of ECATs once again. So we have technology and its vastness, right? And I'm assuming that you all use technology to some extent in your classroom these days. It's very difficult not to. You have the technology of the blackboard, or you have your index cards versus today's Meet. And that's one of the tools that we're going to look at today and experience, as well as another one called Voicethread. So that is really clearly the distinction, is that you can use different technologies in the classroom, but you could use them as paper and Blackboard, or you could use them as a technology, on the web. And so this works really well for, for any medium that you teach in. Great. So we have a poll here, and I would like to get your feedback on this. If you could click on the poll link that you should see on your screen, and it asks you 3 things. What is your experience with classroom assessment techniques? So actually, you'll just pick one. So you have used CATs, classroom assessment techniques, in your teaching. You have heard of them before, but not integrated them into your teaching. Or I do not know, or you do not know what they are or how they are used in the classroom. Does everybody see that link and is able to access? I'm going to click on view results here in just a moment. Let's see. Okay. Great. Okay. So this just gives me a quick indication of how you guys are all, sort of what's your experience with that. So it looks like there has been an aggregated thing that has happened here. So most of the people that have used them in their teaching face-to-face or online, which is a good thing. So hopefully you'll still be able to learn something here. All right. So what I wanted to just share with you as a little bit of background and context is that that much of what we'll explore is from the basis of this book, and it was written in 1993 by Angelo and Cross. And you can do searches on the internet and that sort of thing, where you will find many references to this book and also a variety of different types of activities that will, that are beyond what we'll talk about today. And so this is really the basis from which we are talking today. So I am trying to be good and let John do all of the tech support. I'm used to doing that on my own, so please bear with me. I'll just cruise along here. All right. So criteria for ECATS. These are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself, and I'm going to start in the middle here. Is the assessment technique relatively simple to prepare and use? We are also very busy when we teach courses, and so adding another thing in can be very can just be a lot, and so we don't really want to add more things. We don't want to add busy work. Okay. So will the assessment technique provide information about what students are learning in the individual class? That's also very important. Does the technique focus on alterable variable aspects of teaching or learning behavior that will be changed or can be changed to promote better learning? So in other words, if you got the information, could you actually do something with it to enhance the experience? And will it give teachers and students the information that they use to make mid-course changes and corrections? And finally, are the results from the use of the technique relatively quick and easy to analyze? So these are just some criteria that you would want to think about before you actually implemented a classroom assessment technique. So let's dive just a little bit deeper on why you would use ECATS or CATS. So first of all, CATS can be used to improve the teaching and learning that occurs in a class. And they provide just-in-time feedback about the teaching and learning process. It also provides information on student learning with less work than traditional assignments and papers. Those types of these can get a little cumbersome from time to time, and really the just-in-time learning process is really where it's at as far as I can see. Encouraging the view that teaching is an ongoing process of inquiry, experimentation, and reflection. And this to one of my other points here in this slide. But we also want to help students become better monitors of their own learning. This will help the students to become, more involved. They'll feel less anonymous, and even in large courses, this can make a big difference. And then this final point, it will provide concrete evidence that the instructor cares about the learning that is actually occurring. I wanted to just briefly touch on the difference between assessment and evaluation. Sometimes this, these terms get a little interchanged. And so basically I want to talk about how are they the same and how are they different. And as they are the same, they both involve specifying criteria to observe in a performance or an outcome. And they both require the collection of data and other evidence. And this requires the observer to actually look at the outcome or product. And both require a performer, which in our case is the learner, and the person, the instructor, who collects the information about the performance. What has the student been able to produce and show? And in the difference, the assessment is the locus of control rests with the performer. So basically, the student is in complete control of what they produce, and in evaluation, the control rests with the observer. So how can you, evaluate the process? How can you make better changes? In assessment, there is no mention of the actual quality of the performance, only how to make the next performance stronger. And then finally, in evaluation, the information regarding the actual quality of the performance is given, and this is not used to suggest improvements for future performance. Although I would probably beg to differ a little bit about the evaluation point. I typically use evaluation to make improvements, specifically in my online courses. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit here about a phased approach on how to actually implement a classroom assessment technique. So step number one, choose the focus class. And this could actually just be a synchronous session. So if you're an online instructor, it could be during a webinar experience, or it could be when you meet in person at the end of a meeting, or it could be an assignment or a weekly topic. And then step number two, focus on an accessible goal or question. And step number three, plan the CAT based on that goal. So that's pretty straightforward. Phase two, the implementation. Now we know planning does take a long time, but the implementation, that's where the fun comes in, right? So teach the target lesson related to that goal or question, and that could come from you lecturing face to face, having some different group work in the class, offering your synchronous live session through your online, or even offering some video content. And then collect the feedback data, which is basically step number 5 is what we're mostly going to be focusing on here going forward. And then analyzing the student feedback. Finally, phase 3 is responding to the results. So you want to first you start by interpreting results and formulating an appropriate response to learning. Step 8 would be to communicate the results and try out the response. So that saying that data is only good as you share the data, because if you don't share it, what can you do with it and how effective is it really? And then finally, step 9, evaluate the project's effects on teaching and learning, and then move forward. All right, so these are the examples that we're going to try out today. And we're going to do really well in keeping up our time. So stay tuned, stay focused, and here we go. All right, the muddiest point, the aha moment. Two sides of the coin, right? So this assesses prior knowledge, recall, and comprehension. It is well suited to large classes and to lower division courses, but not to those which emphasize integration, synthesis, and evaluation. The learners respond to just one question. It is considered by many as the simplest CAT. And the question typically is, what was the muddiest point in blank, that whatever you discovered or explored during your class? And alternatively, what was the concept or topic that came to light? What was your aha moment? So suggestions for use might include being used frequently in courses that present students with large amounts of new information on a regular basis, and it should be presented at the end of a lecture assignment. The task should be used sparingly in classes that emphasize more of the higher order learning. So some of the potential technologies that you could use to implement this CAT would be today's meet, and that could be used synchronously or asynchronously. And just real quick, let me find out from you all, does synchronous and asynchronous mean something to you? Is that a term that you use frequently in your vocabulary? Okay, good. Sweet. We are all on the same page. Excellent. All right. So you could also use a discussion board, which is which is typically available to you through your institution, your LMS, and it could be anonymous or not, or you could allow the students to see the posts or not. Also, you could generate a survey or a poll using SurveyMonkey, Google Forms, or Docs. A quick survey, that was the tool that we first used. There's also Poll Everywhere, and I'm guessing you might have some other survey or poll tools that you may be familiar with. And then, of course, you could use Adobe Connect or Blackboard Collaborate because they have a polling feature as well. All right, so with that, you should see a link for today's meet. And for right now, the question is, what so far is your muddiest point or aha moment of today's webinar? And so basically, when you click on this link, you can type your name and click join. And it's going to give you an option to type in this little message box. And you have up to 140 characters. So that is very similar to Twitter. Today's meet is called a back channel, and back channels are typically a safe place to type and interact with your learners, and give them some space to communicate and provide feedback. So is everyone able to see today's meet? Looking for some things to populate on the today's meet. Okay, so yes, so the question is, good. Yep. Yes, Jen asked, would students access this using a phone or other web-enabled device in class? Yes, that is how it would happen. Great, Ellen's on track. And yes, Amber, we are talking about many different technologies to get going here. Good. Anna asks how to build a survey into LMS. Yes, so most LMSs have a test and or survey feature that is available. Yep. Yes, Amber, this is one of the technologies that we are using right now, today's meet. It's called a back channel, and you can use it to ask questions of the learners in your class, and they can quickly give you feedback. This would be a great one to use at the end of a lecture or end of a classroom time period together, and ask them to just drop a line and say what was your your light moment today. What did you totally get, and what's something that you still have questions about, and what are those questions? Oh, that's a great question, Lisa. Is it better to provide the device or require the students to have? The onset of bring your own device today's day, I would say let them bring it. Give them some general requirements of what you'll expect them to be able to do with these specific tools. Yes, Kevin, you could absolutely use clickers in a face-to-face class as an electronic cat. Absolutely. Good. All right. So check out today's meet. There are other back channel, options out there. A couple more. This one tends to be very reliable, and there are many other options in here. The people who support today's meet are very timely. If you have any questions, technical support, things like that. All right. So we are going to jump to the presentation. All right. Good job, everyone. So our next ECAT or classroom assessment technique is the one sentence summary. And this one doesn't necessarily, it's not really easy, but it does ask the students to answer the questions about a given topic. And generally, the format is who does what to whom, when, where, how, and why. And it's the students to transform the response into a single grammatical sentence. It stimulates creativity, so assesses skill in synthesis and creative thinking, and it gives the instructor the ability to assess original intellectual products that result from a synthesis of content and the student's intelligence, judgment, knowledge, and skills. So this one's pretty thoughtful, and faculty can gauge the extent to which students can summarize a large amount of information concisely and completely. And this task works well when there is information that can be summarized in a declarative form. And this might include historical events, political processes, the plots of stories, chemical reactions, mechanical processes, and mathematical equations and such. Cool. So let's try it on our own. Well, first, let's talk a little bit of potential technologies you could use to implement the one sentence summary. You could use the discussion boards again in your LMS and have students respond to each other. You could use Voicethread, which is an audio, video, or text-based tool, and we're going to explore that one a little later. You could use Google Docs, which is what we're going to do here in just a moment. You could also use a blog, and that would be with your learning management system or Blogger, WordPress, etc. All right, so here is, and you should see the one sentence summary using Google Docs link on your screen. And basically, we are going to just take a couple moments. This one's actually quite challenging. Most people cannot, do this all at one time in this webinar. So basically, what I'm asking you to do, it opened up again. There we go. In reference to ECATs, who does what to whom, when, where, how, and why? And so I see most of you are accessing Google Docs. This is great. If anyone has any questions about how to use Google Docs, please let me know in the chat window. Try not to type over each other if you can. Some people can. We're gonna, yes, that's great. Anna is writing her response as hers, so that's great. All right, and we'll be jumping on here in about one moment to get to the next one because I want to make sure we have enough time to do everything. Good. Great. The instructor creates quick assessment questions to determine if students are having any difficulty and to adapt the lesson or course based on the response. That's perfect. Great. Anna writes a comment. An ECAT is a quick formative assessment that an instructor gives to a student online in order to see how the students are doing and adjust the lesson as needed. Perfect. Great. All right. I see one more person typing. It's okay. Spelling is okay here. John, I can understand that some students do not want to use Google products. There are other types of tools that, yes, Titan Pad, good. Yep, that's an example. That one, and there was another one that we used to use. I can't remember the name of it at the top. All right. All right, I'm going to jump off here and go back to the webinar presentation. So the next one is concept or mind mapping. And this one is great because these are where diagrams that students draw in response to a stimulus word or phrase. The maps illustrate the associations that students make between the stimulus and other words or phrases that are generated by the students themselves. And again, this is a great way to get students to be engaged and owners of their own learning process. What's also very nice about this is that it provides an observable and accessible record of the student's conceptual schema and the patterns of associations that they make in relation to a given focal concept. And I can see where this would come in handy for math learning. I suppose that maybe some of you already use this, and it's really nice that it also integrates new and old knowledge. So there are a few technologies that you can use to have students create concepts or mind maps. This one, I'm just going to do a quick example of how easy that these tools are. There's nothing that you have to do particularly. So let me pull up my screen here again. All right. One is called Poplet. And essentially, once you log in, you click on Make a New Poplet, and I'll name it. And it says pick a color, okay. And then basically when I want to create something, I double click on it. And then I can add all sorts of different lines. And I mean, see, it's just really the simple click. It is amazing. They're consistent. Oops. Okay. They're frequent. So we're just talking about the nature of ECATs. All right, they're temperature checks. So you can add links to these, you can add pictures. It really just is up to you what you want to do. Okay, so that's one. And then there's also another one called Bubble US. And I'm going to pull up the example this time. This one tends to be a little bit more intricate, and you know, you can make it as big as you want. You can delete it. Very simple, or same thing where you double click, and it just kind of pushes out these bubbles, and you can move them around. You can attach them by drawing a line, connect. So it basically just gives you all the different options that you need. Types of ECATs. So one would be the one sentence summary, and then you could go a little further and say, what is the one sentence summary? And I know that that's looking a little bit small here, so let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. This includes the who, what, when, why, and where. So maybe this would be a really good tool to use in a classroom or online, because you can share it and individuals can work on it together. So enter up to 20 email addresses separately. And then you could also start one, copy the URL, and provide it to your learners and ask them to do something. So, and if you have access to an overhead projector in your class, or if it's something that you could just put as a link into your LMS to share, that would work as well. All right. So this next one is kind of interesting, and generally I recommend using it at the towards the beginning. Well, I guess you could use the beginning or the, you know, you could use it any time, but this one is self-assessment, self-awareness. And basically it's designed to assist teachers in developing students' attitudes, opinions, values, and self-awareness within the course curriculum. And the students will complete an anonymous survey indicating their level of confidence mastering the course material. So for example, rate your ability to. And what's nice about this is that students are likely to be more in charge of their learning if they are clear and being able to articulate their goals and self-concepts and are making connections between those goals and the course requirements. All right, and then designed to help students express personal goals and clarify self-concept in order to make a connection. And then you could use a goal ranking and matching. Students list and prioritize 3 to 5 goals that they have for their own learning in the course. Has anyone ever done this before to kind of find out where their students are, towards the beginning? Great. Yes, index cards. Okay, Ellen says yes. I see some others typing. So a few potential technologies that you could use for the self-assessment, self-awareness would be, again, surveys and LMS. You could use SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, which is what we're going to use. Great. Ralph used Poll Everywhere. Sweet. And then you could use other types of polls like quick surveys and Poll Everywhere, just like Ralph had mentioned as well. All right. So here is a Google form, and you should see the link to that again that you can click on. And I will open it up where we're going to go. So basically, there's a few questions. It says, I am able to describe electronic classroom assessment techniques. Strongly agree to strongly agree. Disagree to agree. I am able to distinguish the difference between cats and e-cats. Strongly agree to strongly disagree to strongly agree. And after this webinar, I will invest time to be able to integrate e-cats into my synchronous and or synchronous asynchronous classroom activities. Man, these words are just, getting me today. Great. So does everyone have access to this? I want to show you the results, view responses. All right. And form, show summary. And I'm going to take a look because I'm not afraid. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. Um, so most of you have given 5 4s, but there's a couple 2s and a 1s in here, and that is okay because we are only going to spend an hour together, but this really is sincerely an introduction to getting started, and I appreciate the honest feedback. All right, so that was Google Forms using self-assessment. All right, so student-generated test or quiz questions. Anybody ever done this? I'm watching to see if anyone is typing, but basically students are asked to prepare 2 or 3 potential test questions and the accompanying correct or A+ responses. Okay, Ellen says long ago. I would be curious if you decided that it was not something that was going to work well for you at all. This does assess the skill and application and performance, and the instructors get to see what their students consider the most important or memorable content, which I think is kind of interesting as well. The instructor can also glean what the learners understand as fair and useful test questions and how well the learners can answer the questions that they have actually posed. And some suggestions for use include, basically asking the students like 2 or 3 weeks before a major test or a midterm to allow time for feedback and for making appropriate adjustments in teaching and studying. You could use a checklist or a form. You could, just like we used, you could even use a discussion board if you wanted to. And let's look at a little bit more. So you could also use a blog or a wiki. And then there is another tool recently that has come out and has kind of been making some really nice headway in this area, and it's called Zaption. It's an interactive quiz maker using multimedia components where students can actually let's see here. I'm going to show you a quick example. I don't know. I'm going to share the link with you here. because I don't think you're going to be able to hear it on my side. But I'll show you what it looks like. Basically, you click Start, and I'm just going to pause so you can read. But basically, each one of these lines right here is some sort of active question. And so I'll forward here very quickly, and you're going to see that something is going to pop out on the side there, and it gives the learner an option to ask, to answer the question after being provided some information. And again, I'll press play. So each one of these lines here is a different type of question. So this particular lesson has some multiple choice options. There might actually, this one is multiple choice as well, but you can have open answer type questions, you could have true and false, you could have drawing questions, or typed in questions. All right. All right, so the minute paper or reflection. This is where learners actually answer two questions. And those questions are, what is the one thing that helped you learn the most in this week's activities? And what is the one thing in this course that is least helpful to your learning? So, those are pretty important questions to find out. And it is perhaps the most frequently used classroom assessment technique. It does assess prior knowledge, recall, and comprehension. And in this, some suggestions for use. This could work well in small or large classes, and it can be used frequently in courses that present students with large amounts of new information on a regular basis. And the real purpose of this is that it allows faculty to assess the match between their instructional goals and students' perception of these goals and their own learning. So what are some more tools that might work for this particular CAT? You could use your discussion boards. You could use Voicethread. You could use Google Docs. You could use a survey. You could use a test or a quiz in an LMS. So you could use a built-in timer, right? Because if you're teaching an online class, this might be a good way to do it. And you could also use it as a blog. So you can see that many of these tools these technologies have begun to duplicate themselves. So I'd recommend when you decide to use one or to implement classroom assessment techniques, maybe find one tool that will work really well for you throughout the semester, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time learning the tools, and neither do the students. All right, so this, have any of you used or have an account with Voicethread? Or is this a new tool to you? Okay, it's new. Great. This is one of my favorite tools in the whole wide world. It really is. So this one, I'm making this total optional because if you don't want to do it, I understand. But in order to do it, you would have to create a voicethread.com account, and it is free. And basically, I can give you the link, and you can go and post a 1-minute reflection. And you can do this via a video. So most of us have a webcam option on our computers these days. You could use audio just with your microphone, or you could place a text comment. So let me put this link in there, and then I'll open it up and kind of show you. There's a couple comments on there already that you might be interested in just kind of seeing how it works. And basically down here, there is a little plus key. And when you click on it, it gives you some options. This is the text option. They even have a telephone option. Don't know how many people actually use that. Here's the microphone option. And then this is the video option. And so when you do that, you should be able to see. And here I am. Hello. I thought I was going to say hello and let you all know that I am a real person. And so I'm recording now. When I'm done, I click stop, and then I can make a decision to cancel or save, but I will cancel it for right now. Okay, great, John. Thank you for sharing your option there. So I have a couple people here who have made just some textual comments here. Not as easy to make it a 1 minute dealio when it's textual as much as it is when you're using audio or video. There are many, many ways to use Voicethread in a classroom. It really is a phenomenal tool. And so this is just one little small introduction to offer to you today. So I would like to suggest that if you want to do the 1 minute reflection via Voicethread today, maybe you could do it right after today's webinar, or we could end a minute early or something like that, so that you can, go ahead and do that, because it is fairly straightforward to get started. All right. So just some final considerations. So classroom assessment techniques are considered most effective when the experience and the instructors use only those techniques that appeal to their intuition and professional judgment. And I love that about this, because we need to be able to be in tune with our learners and know where they stand. And this just doesn't, no matter which environment that you teach in. It is also recommended that you start with techniques that are quick and easy to use in the classroom, and which everyone feels most comfortable. Also, instructors should only use cats that they have previously tried on themselves or experimented with a colleague. So, ask a friend, ask somebody to do a quick run through of your technology specifically. And always allow for more time to complete the task the first time than you might seem as necessary. We all, I think, have probably experienced showing up to class late to some example, or to some extent, and we all know what that can feel like. So, and then finally, make sure you close the loop. And this is by reporting back to the students what they have learned from the feedback. So if you have a bunch of students that have submitted the same question and that sort of thing, you can easily be able to get back with them and let them know, what it is that they need to be, doing, and how to stay on track. All right. There's one last tool that I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to give you a couple examples in the chat window as well that you can watch on your own. And this is an app. It's called Explain Everything. And it is probably the best $2.99 that you could ever spend on an app. And I am a very cheap person when it comes to buying apps. You should ask my sons. But basically, it's a great app for both iOS, Android, and Windows. I mean, it is a tablet type thing, so you have to have some sort of tablet. But essentially, it provides you with great opportunity to create interactive type videos, to write out math equations, and actually have students respond to those as well. And it's a fabulous tool. And I thought I would just give you that as a final wrap up on tools, because it's a lot of the reason why you're here today. All right. And with that said, we are on time. You all are fabulous. You have managed to participate in just about everything we've done today, and we've got a few minutes to spare. So are there any final questions or thoughts that anyone would like to share and discuss? For being here, Crystal. That is great. Fabulous. I will give you my Emory email just in case anyone wants to reach out and ask any questions. I'll be happy to help wherever I can, and I wish you all a fabulous rest of your summer. Thank you, Banaz, for being here. Definitely a pleasure to get to know you this time.
Well, yes, Leah, thank you very much for everything today. And some of you have already thanked Leah in the chat room, so if you want to go ahead and thank Leah again, that would be great. I appreciated the presentation. I hope that all of you did as well. The questions about the copy of the presentation, I think that the recording will be available, and as long as Leah is okay with it, a separate link to the actual slides can be made available with the recording. So you might want to email Leah directly at the email address in the chat room as well. So thanks again for participating in today's AMATIC webinar, and if you'd like to support future AMATIC webinars, please consider becoming a member of AMATIC at bit.ly/join-AMATIC. And please remember to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMATIC. And recordings of past AMATIC webinars, including this one, can be found at bit.ly/amatic-webinars, and it typically takes us 1 to 2 weeks to produce and upload recordings to this archive. So look for this one today to be up there in a week or two. And then if you could please take 2 minutes to evaluate the webinar content and the presenter at bit.ly/amatic35, that would be greatly appreciated. You can type that right into your web browser or click right directly on the link. And if you need email confirmation of your participation in the webinar, please fill in the optional section at the end of the evaluation. And I do look through those personally, so if you don't get your certificate, please come and ask me for the certificate. And again, if you haven't thanked Leah in the chat room, that would be great. This would be a good time to do so, and I'm going to end the recording now.